All right, good afternoon. Programming note. It will be no surprise for you to learn that Monday is a holiday in the United States, Labor Day, which means that we will not be working. But obviously, as usual, we'll be available to you guys electronically. And at 1 p.m. on Tuesday, there'll be a press briefing here by Mr. Sang-Jin Kim, the Chargé d'Affaires of the Republic of Korea to the United Nations, and he will be here to speak to you in his role as President of the Security Council for the month of September, and it will be a busy month. He will, of course, brief you on the program of work. Just to note that this is just in person. There will be no Zoom link for this press conference. Personnel announcement and a travel announcement to share with you. Senior personnel announcement today. The Secretary General is appointing Diane Keita of Guinea as the new Executive Director of the UN Population Fund, UNFPA. She succeeds Natalia Kanem of Panama, to whom the Secretary General is deeply grateful for her dedicated service and outstanding commitment to the United Nations and UNFPA. Currently serving as the Acting Executive Director of UNFPA, Ms. Keita has served as Deputy Executive Director of that organization since 2020, bringing over 3 decades of experience in leadership and international development and public service. We congratulate her. The personal envoy of the Secretary General, Maria Angela Holgun Cuellar, will travel to Cyprus next week, meeting separately with the Greek Cypriot and Turkish Cypriot leaders. That will take place on September 2nd. She's also scheduled to engage with representatives of the two leaders, the member of the Technical Committee on Youth and the Committee on Missing Persons, among other interlocutors. You'll have seen that earlier this morning we issued a statement on Sudan, and the Secretary General said he is appalled by the relentless attack by the Rapid Support Forces on El Fasher in Sudan's North Darfur state. El Fasher has been under tightening siege for more than 500 days, with hundreds of thousands of civilians trapped in the area. Recent weeks have seen near continuous shelling of the area and repeatedly deadly incursions into the Abu Shuk displacement camp, where famine conditions were identified back in 2024. And as a stark reminder, since 11th August, our agency documented at least 125 civilians having been killed in El Fasher area, including through summary executions, with the actual death toll most likely much higher. The Secretary General is alarmed at the grave risk of serious violations of international humanitarian law, as well as violations and abuses of international human rights law, including ethnically motivated violations. Supplies are prepositioned nearby, but efforts by the United Nations and our partners to move them into El Fasher continue to be hampered. There have been repeated attacks on humanitarian personnel and assets in North Darfur in the recent months. The Secretary General calls for an immediate ceasefire in El Fasher and the areas around El Fasher. He insists that immediate steps must be taken to protect civilians and enable the safe, unhindered, and sustained delivery of humanitarian assistance into the area, and allow any civilian seeking to leave the area voluntarily to do so safely. The Secretary General's personal envoy, Ramtam Lamamra, is continuing to engage with the warring parties, and he, of course, stands ready to support genuine efforts to halt the violence and establish an inclusive political process that the people of Sudan are demanding. Turning to Gaza, and I can tell you that we are concerned that the ongoing Israeli offensive on Gaza City could have an even more horrific impact on people across the Strip if it intensifies further. We note that the Israeli announcement today of the daily tactical pauses have been discontinued for Gaza City, and that's an area that Israel now classifies as a dangerous combat zone. That suspension will further threaten people's lives and aid workers' ability to support people. Our colleagues on the ground tell us that those declared pauses appear to signal, our colleagues on the ground tell us that those declared pauses appear to signal some willingness that humanitarian work should be allowed to move forward. Yet in recent weeks, they still observe bombings in areas and at times where such pauses had been declared. OCHA stresses that life-saving aid operations must be further enabled and not rolled back. Moreover, forcing hundreds of thousands of people to move further south is a recipe for further disaster and could amount to forcible transfer. We and our partners are remaining in Gaza City to provide life-saving support with a commitment to serve people wherever they are. We expect our work to be fully facilitated and remind parties that civilians, including humanitarian workers, must be protected at all times. Humanitarian facilities and other civilian infrastructure must also be safeguarded. OCHA tells us that aid workers continue to face impediments to their movements inside the Gaza Strip. Yesterday, 1 in every 4 such movements, which had been fully coordinated with authorities initially approved, face impediments that were unable to be fully accomplished. That's 4 out of a total of 16. These impediments undermine the planned collection of cargo from crossings and much-needed road repairs. We also have a quick correction from yesterday. I said that 200 herders each received 2 100-kilogram sacks of animal feed. Our friends in Rome at the Food and Agricultural Organizations clarified that each sack was 50 kilograms and not 100. Turning to the West Bank, including East Jerusalem, our humanitarian colleagues tell us they continue to see very high levels of Israeli settler violence against Palestinians. That has obviously harsh impact on the humanitarian situation. Between last Tuesday and this Monday, OCHA documented at least 15 attacks that caused injuries or property damage in 13 Palestinian communities. Those attacks left 8 Palestinians injured and forced 6 hurting families to flee their homes. That's 15 adults and nearly 20 displaced children. OCHA says that settler violence has now become one of the main drivers of displacement of Palestinians throughout the West Bank. And just to give you some sense, in one pocket of Bethlehem, governorate around Bariat Kisan, OCHA has recorded at least 64 Palestinian hurting families who've had to leave since October of 2023 because of persistent violence and intimidation by settlers. That's more than 100 adults and over 80 children. 18 of those families were displaced just last month after being assaulted or threatened, or after their property was destroyed or looted. Home demolitions are also driving families away. Since the start of the year, as of this Monday, 873 Palestinians, half of those children, were displaced when Israeli authorities demolished or forced the demolition of their homes for not having the Israeli-issued building permits required. We call again on the protection of all civilians across the West Bank, including East Jerusalem, and to stop these demolitions, and steps must also be taken against settler violence. Turning to Lebanon, and following the mandate extension by the Security Council yesterday, UNIFIL continues to conduct its operations to advance stability in southern Lebanon and along the Blue Line. Yesterday, our peacekeepers found an unauthorized mortar bomb in Sector East. The day before, they discovered a weapons cache and infrastructure in Sector East as well, including a tunnel with boxes of explosive shells stored about 15 minutes underground. Yesterday morning, a UNIFIL patrol was subjected to aggressive behavior in Sector West when a group of 5 individuals pelted stones at the patrol, causing minor damage at the vehicles. We reiterate once again that acts endangering peacekeepers and hampering their work are unacceptable and must stop. The peacekeepers also continue to observe Israeli Defense Force military activities, including several airstrikes on Thursday in our area of operations. Just to highlight the risk faced by securing the southern Lebanon, yesterday 2 members of the Lebanese armed forces lost their lives in an explosion in Nakora, and others were injured. According to the Lebanese armed forces, the incident occurred while its personnel were inspecting a fallen IDF drone. As reaffirmed by the Security Council in its Resolution 2790s, the parties are to ensure full respect for the Blue Line and full cessation of hostilities. We reiterate that the Lebanese armed forces' full deployment across the South is central to Resolution 1701, with UNIFIL coordinating closely with the Lebanese armed forces in support. Moving to Syria, we've been following with concern the developments in the Sumaria neighborhoods in Damascus. Our special envoy for Syria, Geir Pedersen, says he's closely following these developments, including reports of threats of evictions and reports of abuses against innocent civilians, including women and children. We join Mr. Pedersen in urging restraint and refraining from precipitous or violent action. The special envoy stresses that complex issues related to housing, land, property, and transitional justice need to be addressed with care, prioritizing the protection of civilians based on the rule of law and in line with international standards. As for the humanitarian situation in Syria, our colleagues there tell us that a convoy loaded with aid involving UN agencies, Syrian Arab Red Crescent, and other partners successfully reached Sueda Governorate via the main highway from Damascus. This was the first movement on that road since July 12th, as it had been closed due to the clashes we've been telling you about and you know of. Since then, convoys have been rerouted through less direct routes, adding obviously logistics, cost, and security challenges to those operations. Yesterday's convoy, including 19 trucks carrying relief items such as food baskets, hygiene kits, nutrition supplies, fuel, medical supplies, and solar lamps. In addition, colleagues carried out needs assessment in northern rural Sueda Governorate and in town of Salcad. As of August 25th, just a few days ago, and since mid-July, humanitarian partners report that clashes in Sueda Governorate have displaced more than 180,000 human beings, and they've been displaced across southern Syria. We and our partners continue to scale up the response. Between July and August, 337,000 people across Sueda, Dar, and rural Damascus governorates received some form of humanitarian assistance. Two things I want to share with you that I'm discovering as well, because they were just brought to me. One is a statement on Burkina Faso. The Secretary General learned with regret that on August 18th, the Burkinabe's transitional authorities declared a resident coordinator and humanitarian coordinator, Carol Flore, persona non grata. He expressed full confidence in her professionalism and dedication in the broader UN system in Burkina Faso. The United Nations system, led by our resident coordinator, has been working closely with the Burkinabe's transitional authorities to support development efforts and provide humanitarian assistance. The doctrine of persona non grata does not apply to United Nations officials, and we've said this repeatedly in different contexts. Under Article 100 and 101 of the Charter of this organization, United Nations staff members are appointed by the Secretary General. They are responsible only to the organization, and UN member states undertake to respect their exclusive international character. In accordance with Article 105 of the Charter, they are accorded privileges and immunities, including the right of its staff members to remain in Burkina to perform their functions on behalf of the organization. Only the Secretary General, as the Chief Administrative Officer of the UN, has the authority to decide, after careful investigation, on the withdrawal of any UN official. The Secretary General reaffirms the commitment of the United Nations to continue to support the people of Burkina Faso in full cooperation with the transitional authorities. And the UN verification mission in Colombia has welcomed the liberation of 33 soldiers from the Colombian armed forces who had been held against their will by local residents of a community in southern Colombia for several days amid military operations against armed groups and illicit crops in the area. The Colombia minister thanked the mission for its assistance in facilitating for facilitating their release in the Department of Guaviare, citing excellent cooperation with the authorities in support the soldiers' release. The mission reiterated its continued commitment to the communities and institutions to achieve sustainable peace in the area. Okay, continuing. No, it's just okay to pause because I have so much to say. It's a mini intermission. I can also tell you that we are encouraged that the Security Council is poised to take further action to improve international support for security in Haiti in response to armed gangs operating in that country. And I think we've been giving you a very clear picture of the horrendous situation those armed gangs have caused. We reiterate the Secretary General's recommendation to strengthen the multinational security support mission through a UN logistical and operational support funded by the UN peacekeeping budget, as well as his call for the implementation of UN sanctions regime and decisive progress in Haiti's political process. We welcome the decision by Canada, El Salvador, Guatemala, Jamaica, Kenya, the Bahamas, and the United States to establish a standing group of partners to provide high-level strategic direction, oversight, and political decision-making for any revamped security force, and look forward to working closely with that group. A quick update from our UN team in Nepal, where health authorities reported suspected cholera outbreak in the Birgunj metropolitan city a few days ago. Health authorities, national health authorities, are leading the response and have activated a water sanitation hygiene cluster with support from the UN team. The World Health Organization is providing expertise in epidemiology, case investigations, lab testing, vaccination planning, and information management. Our colleagues at UNICEF have also distributed water purifiers, medicines, hygiene supplies, and mobilized volunteers to engage households on preventions and safe practices. International Day, two very important ones. Today is the International Day against nuclear tests. In his message, the Secretary General says, we must never forget the legacy of over 2,000 nuclear weapons tests carried out over the last 80 years, driving displacement and contaminating lands and oceans. His messages to leaders is to, quote, silence the bombs before they speak again. Tomorrow is the International Day of Victims of Enforced Disappearances, a strategy that has been used frequently to support terror within societies. And on Sunday, we mark the International Day for People of African Descent. The Secretary General says on this day, we honor the extraordinary contributions of people of African descent across every sphere of human endeavor, but we also recognize the enduring injustices. 3 very important days. 2 more items. And I know it's Friday and you want to get out of here, but I do want to go. I wanted to salute the retirement of a legendary spokesman. Our friend and colleague Andrea Tenenti has been, give or take a few years, the voice in the face of UNIFIL since the paint was still wet on the markers along the blue line. Throughout his years at UNIFIL, Andrea has been consistent in his professionalism, his passion, and his belief in the UN mission. We wish him a future of clear blue skies, calmer all around, and no phones. Finally, we have money. We got a quiz for you. And this country that's paid up today is known for having the most pyramids in the world.
Mexico?
It's not Egypt.
No, not Mexico, not Egypt.
Sudan?
Sudan, exactly. So today, we thank our friends in Khartoum for their full payment to the regular budget. We are now up to fully paid 122 member states. Please, you won.
Yes,
Sorry, Edie.
Sorry, Edie. I have several questions. Well, first of all, the U.S. State Department just issued a statement saying that it's denying and revoking visas for members of the PLO and the Palestinian Authority before the UN General Assembly in September. Any reaction from the Secretary General on this announcement?
We've learned of this just like you through the press statements. We're obviously going to follow up. We'll discuss these matters with the State Department in line with the UN headquarters agreement between the UN and the U.S.
And yesterday, there are more than 500 staffers in the Office for High Commissioner of Human Rights signed a letter to ask Ms. Turk to describe the Gaza war as a genocide. Any comments from the Secretary General on the behavior of
One of your
those
colleagues asked me the same question yesterday. I'm happy to repeat it. Repeat my answer, which is that, first of all, the Secretary General's full and complete confidence in the work of Volker Turk as High Commissioner for Human Rights. To reiterate something we have said hundreds of times here, the labeling of an event as a genocide for us is up to a competent legal judicial authority. I think if people paid attention, they would see how vocal Volker Turk has been about the horrors going on in Gaza. And they will also take note of the rather direct and pointed criticism from the Israeli authorities for everything that he said.
Sorry, one last thing.
Sure.
The Grand National Assembly of Turkey today adopted a motion urge UN to suspend the membership of Israel until it changes its policy on Gaza. My question is there a way to really suspend
I would
membership?
encourage you to read the charter, and all of that is left up to member states. Edie, later, and then Emily.
Thank you, Steph. Does the Secretary General have any comment on the announcement by the White House today that it's blocking $4.9 billion in foreign aid approved by Congress, including $520 million for the UN regular budget and other organizations such as UNESCO, as well as $838 million for international peacekeeping?
I mean, we've obviously, we learned of this like you all did. We saw the press reports. We saw the actual announcement. What can I tell you? This is going to make our budget situation, our liquidity situation, that much more challenging. But we will follow up with the U.S. authorities to get more details.
And secondly, on the resident coordinator in Burkina Faso being declared persona non grata, I wasn't clear from what you said whether she is staying in Burkina Faso or is she leaving?
She left the country a few days ago. Amélie, then. Oh, I'm so sorry. Linda, would you ask a question that Deji has not asked, and then we'll go to Gabriel?
It's going to be hard.
Or that Edie has not asked? Yes, that will be hard.
Very hard.
Go ahead.
Okay, turning to Yemen, I was just wondering what the status is of UN efforts to get, UN staff, diplomats, NGOs, sailors, and all kinds of people released by the Houthis.
I mean, we continue to advocate publicly. We continue to advocate privately, including through contacts with with member states who may have a more direct line to Ansar Allah and the Houthis, and we continue to bring their plight to attention. I think our colleagues who briefed on Yemen talk about it all the time, and we will not forget our colleagues and others who remain illegally detained.
But is there some kind of
Your microphone.
mechanism? Oops. Is there some kind of formal mechanism that's there?
I mean, the mechanism.
Is it Iran that you're asking to help?
We've raised this in discussions with the Iranian authorities. This is an issue that our resident coordinator raises. This is issues that Mr. Grunberg, our special envoy, raises. We hope that they be released. They deserve to be released immediately. Gabriel.
Thank you, Steph. Would the U.S. preventing President Abbas from speaking at the UN General Assembly violate the UN headquarters agreement?
We are going to discuss this with the State Department. I mean, the headquarters agreement deserves to be read, notably, I think, sections 11 and 12. We obviously hope that this will be resolved. It is important that all member states, permanent observers, be able to be represented, especially, I think in this case, with the, as we know, the upcoming two-state solution meeting that that France and Saudi Arabia will host at the beginning of the GA.
Would the Secretary General like the U.S. government to revoke this decision?
Well, obviously, we would like to see all diplomats and delegates who are entitled to come here to be able to travel freely. Iftikhar, I see you. Iftikhar? I think you've just turned off your camera. All right, any question? Oh, Iftikhar, go ahead. There we go. Go ahead.
Thank you, Steph. Any update on the floods in Pakistan? Now it is a deluge with 250,000 people displaced.
I have not received any updates today, but we will ask our humanitarian colleagues to give you something before close of business.
Thank you, sir.
All right. Yes, sir.
Sorry, I know you
No,
wanna
sorry. All right, one more question.
get outta
Don't move.
here. I just had a quick question for you. The Iranian Foreign Ministry said today in a statement that the move by the E3 to implement and snapback mechanism of Resolution 2231 will gravely undermine its ongoing cooperation with the IAEA. Just any reactions?
Well,
to
I
this
mean, I
by
think,
the
as I
SG?
said yesterday, we very much hope that this window of opportunity will be used for diplomacy to resolve all outstanding issues, and that the Islamic Republic of Iran will continue its cooperation with the IAEA. Okay. Sorry, either raise
No,
your hand
we
loudly
don't have briefing on Monday, or do we have it?
Deji, you were just
I
not
was
listening
late.
yesterday,
I was late.
not listening to. You have access to your office. You're more welcome to come in here on Monday. You will be alone.